My grandpa's will had one shocking clause that changed our family dynamic. Chapter 1. My grandpa, Alexei, was always an authority figure and a source of inspiration for me. He grew up in a small town, experienced wars and tough times, but always maintained optimism and faith in people. His stories about how he built his life working in a factory and raising 3 children were filled with wisdom and life experience. My sister and I often spent weekends with him, listening to his tales and learning from him. When Grandpa passed away, the whole family was in deep shock. He left quietly, just as he lived, leaving behind many memories and, as it turned out, one very important will. Chapter 2. After the funeral, when emotions had settled a bit, we gathered at Grandma's house to discuss how we would go on without him. It was at this moment that we received a call from Grandpa's lawyer, who scheduled a meeting to read his will. We were all a bit nervous, not knowing what to expect. When we gathered in the room for the meeting, the atmosphere was tense. The lawyer, an elderly man with a serious expression, began to read the will. He spoke about how Grandpa loved his family and was proud of each of us. But then he moved on to the clauses, and that's when the real drama began. Chapter 3. When the lawyer reached the final clause, he paused and looked at us. Your grandpa left one shocking clause, he said. We all exchanged glances, puzzled. He left all his property only to the one of you who can pass a test of worthiness. Silence fell in the room. We couldn't believe what we were hearing. A test. Why did Grandpa decide to leave us such a puzzle? Chapter 4. The lawyer explained that Grandpa had composed a list of tasks and trials that each of us would have to complete over the next year. These trials were related to the values he deemed important: honesty, hard work, family, and compassion. Each of us was to choose one trial and complete it. My sister, Anna, chose the honesty trial. She decided to volunteer at a homeless shelter and share her experiences. My brother, Igor, chose hard work and decided to start his own business to demonstrate how he could work for himself. I chose the compassion trial and decided to help people with disabilities. Chapter 5. Over the next few months, we all immersed ourselves in our trials. I began working with a group of people with disabilities. It was a challenging but incredibly rewarding experience. I learned a lot, and each day was full of new discoveries. I realized how important it was to be patient and responsive. Anna faced difficulties when she had to overcome her own fears and insecurities to talk about what she learned and share her stories. Igor, for his part, encountered numerous obstacles in business, but his perseverance and hard work inspired us all. Chapter 6. As time went on, the atmosphere in our family began to change. What initially seemed like a beneficial trial became a source of tension and rivalry. We started to compare our achievements and successes, which led to conflicts. Anna felt that her work at the shelter was not appreciated enough, while Igor was proud of his business successes. I, in turn, was trying to find a balance between my work and family relationships. We began to argue, and this caused us to feel guilty, as Grandpa always said that family was the most important thing. Chapter 7. One day, when we gathered to discuss our achievements, I decided that we needed to talk about what was truly important. I suggested we have a family evening where we could share our experiences and discuss how the trials had affected us. That evening, we opened up to each other. Anna spoke about her fears. Igor shared his doubts. And I talked about how difficult it was to cope with expectations. We realized that each of us was fighting our own internal battles, and that it was important to support one another rather than compete. Chapter 8. From that moment on, our dynamic changed. We began to support each other in our trials. Anna helped me with my projects. Igor shared his business advice, and I inspired them to achieve new goals. We understood that Grandpa left us not just an inheritance, but also a lesson about the importance of being together and supporting each other. Chapter 9. A year passed, and we all successfully completed our trials. We gathered together to share our results and experiences. Each of us talked about what we had learned and how it had changed our lives. The lawyer gathered us again to announce who had become the worthy heir. But this time, we were no longer focused on competition. We realized that we had all become better and stronger because of this experience. Chapter 10. In the end, the lawyer announced that Grandpa had left us all his inheritance, but not in a material sense. He left us a lesson about love, support, and the importance of family. We understood that the true legacy of our grandpa was the bond we had strengthened over that year. We decided to continue supporting each other and working on ourselves to be worthy of his legacy. Now, when we look at his photographs or remember his stories, we know that he will always be with us, in our hearts and in our actions. Epilogue. A new chapter since then. Several years have passed, and we continue to support each other. We often gather to share new stories and successes. The trials that once divided us now unite us. We created a new tradition every year on Grandpa's birthday. We come together to remember him and celebrate our family. Thus, Grandpa's shocking will become the beginning of a new chapter in our family story. And we will forever be grateful to him for that.